If truth is on your side, why use fiction? One of the favorite movies that anti-Israel groups like to show is a movie that's available on Netflix and other platforms called Farha. The movie is about a Palestinian child, a young girl, who is watching what they call the Nakba, the catastrophe, which is for them a catastrophe. That's what they call the establishment of Israel in 1948. And she watches what's going on, and you see the war of 1948 through her own lens. Now, this is a pure anti-historical propaganda movie, and I'm going to explain why. Number one, you watch the movie, and what's noted is that the Arab armies, meaning the armies of Jordan, of Egypt, of Syria, of Iraq, all these armies that have invaded Israel in 1948 because of the UN partition plan, because of the two-state solution which Israel accepted, those armies then invaded it. So let's get the history straight. Israel accepted the United Nations two-state solution, which gave a room for an Arab state. Nobody called it a Palestinian state then because Palestinians didn't see themselves as Palestinians at the time. There's room for a Palestinian state and a Jewish state. And the Jews are like, great, we'll take anything we can get. Even if it's half of what we wanted, we'll take it. Then the Arab armies of Iraq, Jordan, Syria, Egypt, and other countries marched on Israel, which is a country that didn't exist at the time, meaning Israel didn't have an organized army. Israel was not properly prepared for this war, and they marched on. Now, the local Arabs, who now call themselves Palestinians, were thrilled because they were like, yay, someone else is going to do the work for us and ethnically cleanse our enemies from here. Except it didn't work. Now, in the film called Farha, what they say is that these armies come to help local Palestinians, local Arabs that are living there. Now, that's not what happened. What happened is those armies wanted to go and run Israel over. Nobody was threatening the Arab population living inside Israel. The Arab population living inside Israel, in fact, is protected in Israel's Declaration of Independence. In Israel's Declaration of Independence, free rights are guaranteed to all, and Israel also has a clause calling for peace with its Arab neighbors. So nobody was in danger. The fact that those armies came to run Israel over was a genocidal move. They wanted to ethnically cleanse and destroy the chance of even the smallest Jewish state being established between the river of the Jordan and the Mediterranean. So the movie starts off with this poor Palestinian family in the West Bank, and sorry, not in the West Bank, in the 1948 borders, and their daughter there, Farha, is there. Again, it says that the armies of the Arab countries are coming to kind of help them, but it's not true. They were coming to overrun Israel. They were not coming to help the Palestinians. Give you a proof, even more, that once the Palestinians fled to those countries, to Lebanon, to Syria, those countries put Palestinians in refugee camps and gave them second-class citizen rights to this day, 76 years later. Okay, next. One of the striking scenes is that this young girl, Farha, is then watching from her window a terrifying scene that honestly the only place you can find something equivalent to that is in the movies, the worst and most graphic films about World War II, the horrors of the Einsatzgruppen, the SS, Gestapo, etc. That's the only place you can find equal levels of horror. And it shows the Israeli soldiers doing these things that you can only see in films about the SS. Now, that is not only unfounded and not true and anti-historical, but it is a pure propaganda against Israel. It's just propaganda, and it's vile anti-Semitism. And so you have to ask yourself, what kind of person puts in fictional propaganda that is anti-Semitic and has zero documentation or connection to reality if truth is on their side? And the reason they do put it in is because truth is not on their side. In fact, I'll tell you something, a personal revelation here. My own cousin, Yaakov Lishansky, was a commander of the Haganah. That is the militia that was, before it was the IDF, it was called the Haganah, the defense force. And he lived in Haifa, which was a mixed city, had Jews, Christians, Muslims. And he, as a commander in the Haganah, in the war of 1948, is documented by Benny Morris in history books to have gone from house to his Arab neighbors saying, stay, don't flee. But they didn't listen. They listened to the Arab League, which told them, give us a few days, we'll ethnically cleanse the Jews between the river and the Mediterranean, and then you'll get their houses. So they didn't listen. And in fact, there are multiple cases documented where the Israeli Defense Forces, the Haganah, turned to the Arab population and said, stay here. And in fact, those who did accept that invitation remained as Israel's Arabs, which is today 20% of Israel's population. And so this movie Farha is not only with no connection to history, not only does it falsify history, but it's extraordinary anti-Semitic propaganda showing a story that never happened, a story that is false. Yes, someone named Farha existed, of course, but the narrative is that the Israelis committed these atrocities paralleled only by the German SS, when in fact the Arab armies were the ones who came in to do exactly that to the Jews living in Israel. So it's a shame that it's being shown. I've seen that it's now about to be shown by Yale's Whitney Center for the Humanities. It's a shame that it's being shown. Frankly, it's a shame that it's up on Netflix altogether. And all I can do is help you know the fact, and that is that the Arab armies came in and invaded Israel not to help the Palestinians, but to expel the Jews, and that the Israelis actually acted with superb humanitarian compassion, very high humanitarian standards, and to this day, Arabs are one of Israel's most successful minorities and are respected and protected, enjoying equality under Israel's law.